Hey everybody, welcome to another Excel tutorial. Oops, sorry about that. In this tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the common errors that you will find in Microsoft Excel. And these are usually to do with formulas and functions. And it can be kind of hard to track them down because the error message that you receive is not very descriptive. It just gives you a little code, and then you kind of have to figure out from there where the error is. So it can be a little bit hard to hunt down sometimes. So hopefully with this tutorial, when you see these errors, you will be able to figure out where your problem is and fix it easily. So we're going to start with a very simple one. This is the divide by zero error. And all that means is that you are trying to divide a number by zero. If you look at our formula at the top, you can see that I'm trying to divide the number in A1 by the number in A2. And because we have a 0 in A2, that is not mathematically possible. So it gives us this divide by 0 error. All right. The same is true if we take the number out completely, because Excel interprets empty cells as being 0. So once we put a number in this cell, now let's say we put a 7 in there. Now it should be able to divide 21 by 7 and give us 3. Okay, so again, all that error means is that you are trying to divide something by 0. So you either have a 0 in the cell or you have a blank cell, and that causes that problem. That one's pretty straightforward. Let's move on next to the NA function, not applicable. So what we have here is a very simple chart of a few products and how many we have in stock, our quantity. And I have done a simple VLOOKUP function here. I'm not going to get into how that works because that's not what this tutorial is about. But basically, if we type a product name into this cell, it will return the quantity into this cell. So for example, in this cell, let's type in pears, and it should give us 14. Okay, if we type in grapes, it should give us 70. But what happens if we type in a product that we don't have in our chart? Let's say we type in bananas. Okay, so we don't have any bananas in our chart. And now it gives us this NA or not applicable error message. So all that means is that Excel doesn't understand a reference that we have typed in here because bananas doesn't exist. So if we take that out, it still gives us NA because now we have a blank cell here and it doesn't match up with one of the products in our list. All we have to do to fix that is type in pears as an example. The VLOOKUP matches these two together and gives us 14. So whenever you see NA, it likely means that in your function, in your formula, it is looking for something that isn't referenced properly. Okay, so that's what that one is all about. All right, so the name error you see here, number sign name question mark. Okay, this one is quite simple. This means that in the formula that you have typed in, there is something that Excel doesn't understand. And if you look very closely at my formula up here at the top, you should be able to see what it is. What I want to do is I want to add the number in A1 plus the number in A2. So I want to use the sum function, SUM, but here I have typed SUN. There's your problem. So Excel does not understand doesn't understand what I'm trying to type. So if I change that N to an M, now I'm using the sum function and now it will work. Okay, that can also be true in the arguments, not just the name of the function. So if I do, let's say instead of A1 plus A2, let's say I make a typo and I accidentally put let's say question mark in there. Okay, I accidentally hit the question mark key, so now it says A question mark 1 plus A2. it's going to give me the same thing because it doesn't understand which cell I am trying to reference, because the cell A?1 does not exist. Okay, so when you see that name function, either you are trying to reference a function that doesn't exist, or you're trying to reference a cell that doesn't exist. So if I take out that question mark, now we have a proper formula, and so it should work just fine. Okay? Now, on to the next one, on to value. Okay? So this one, you will see in my function, in my formula, I want to multiply the price of the product times the number of sales. A3 times B3. A3 looks fine, $10.99. But here, under sales, instead of 10, I've accidentally typed 10, and I get the value. So basically what Excel is saying to me is, hey, look, buddy, you've typed a letter where I'm expecting a number. Okay, so now if I fix this and I change this to 10, now it does my calculation for me. Okay, if I change this to A, again, I get the value error because it's trying to do a calculation, but I've given it a letter, so it doesn't know what I'm trying to accomplish here. All right, so that's what the value means. It means there's an incorrect value somewhere in the cells that it is trying to calculate. So let's change that back to 10, and then that one should be fine. So that is the value function, the value error. Okay, a couple of more. So ref, all right. So what this means, and you see here, what I'm trying to do here is A2, I'm trying to add up A2, B2, and C2, all right. So right now it's working fine. It's giving me exactly what I want. But what happens if I delete column C? Okay, now I've got a problem. Now I've got this error because in my original formula, I did A2, comma, B2, comma, C2, which means add up A2, B2, and C2. But I deleted one of the columns, so now the formula is referring to a column that has been deleted, okay? So that's what that means. That's not a very common one because what you would normally do, let me undo that, okay? What you would normally do in that formula is you would do it this way. You would do A2 colon C2, meaning add up the whole range from A2 to C2. Now if we delete a column, it still works because it changes the formula just to reference the range of A2 to B2. Okay, so that error, the REF, the reference formula error, sorry, is not very common, but that's what it means. It means you are referring to a column or a cell in a formula, but that cell has been deleted, doesn't exist anymore for whatever reason. And finally, we're going to look at this error, okay, the NUM or number error. This one can be common. So what I've got in this cell here is I've got a formula to calculate the difference between two dates, all right? So I want to know how many days exist between October 2nd, 2020 and October 16th, 2020. So obviously that's pretty easy. It's 14 days. Let's make it a different date. Okay, so let's say I want to know how many days from today's date, which is October 7th, until Christmas. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type today's date into the start date cell. So 2020, 10, 7. And then I'm going to type Christmas Day into the end date. So it's 2020, 12, 25. And that will tell me that how many days it is until Christmas Day. Okay, so the problem is, let's say I accidentally enter the end date, that is before the start date. So let's say I do 2020, 10, 6. Now I get the number error because I've entered incorrect data. So in this instance, I can't enter a date, an end date that is before the start date. It's just not possible. Okay, so that's where you will see that error, is when there is a problem with a number that you have entered. It doesn't have to be dates. It can happen with actual numbers. For example, if you're trying to do a mathematical calculation that can't be done, for example, the square root of a negative number. But now if I fix this and I change this to 2020, 10, 10, now it should give me 3 because I have fixed that number. So that's what the number error means. It means there's something with one of the numbers you've entered into a cell that it is calculating that is incorrect. Okay, so there are some of your basic Excel errors, and hopefully that will arm you with some information for when you see these kind of errors in your Excel future. Hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. If you want to support the channel, go to patreon.com/sgtech and you can become a patron for as little as a couple of bucks a month and help this channel create more videos. Thanks very much, guys. We'll talk to you soon on another video.